All right, we are live, right? Oh my god, I'm gonna knock over my whole set here. Yes, we are. Everything looks to be working. We can hear, we can, see, right? We're working here. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of the podcast right here, streaming live on YouTube. My name is Ariana Dieva, and we are here to talk about more stupidity that is going on in the world of politics, in the world of the United States, in the stupidity, what is known as Trump's regime. Prove me wrong that Trump is the worst president in American history, because he is. It is just a given fact, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because his administration from the top, which is him, all the way down to his minions, has just been a crisis. A crisis call for the United States, and honestly, for people who have not woken up to the corruption and the deception and the complete and utter disregard for the law and order president. I mean, come on now. At this point, we need to understand this man needs to go. Whichever way, whether God takes him and sends him where he needs to be, or he's just taken out of that office with that whole regime. Hegseth, Rubio, Vance, all of them just out, gone. I can't do it. But yesterday, we actually talked about Ghislaine Maxwell, and what her whole situation is in regards to Trump, the Epstein files, and everything like that. And since we're talking about the Epstein's files, we might as well go into the first topic for tonight, which is none other than a little bit of an update. I said upstate. An update of what's going on with the Epstein files and what has come out after the release of not only the documents that have been released, but the release of the transcripts that took place between Ghislaine Maxwell and Blanche. And we are going to kind of get a little bit into that. We're not going to spend too much time on that tonight, because we did spend a lot of time kind of weaving in and out of what could possibly be the reasoning as to why she decided to give her testimony in an interview with the DOJ yesterday. Kind of went into and dived into some of the statements she made and how it doesn't exonerate the president, but it doesn't incriminate him. It leaves him in a very gray spot where he's sitting very comfortably, molding, dying. But still, nonetheless, I don't understand why these people are going to bat so hard protecting this man. It just does not make sense to me. It's crazy to me. But a little update on Ghislaine Maxwell and the Epstein files. So apparently we had the California Congressman Robert Garcia, the Democratic leader on the House Oversight Committee. He received the Epstein files, and it gave critical insights into what lawmakers have received, and perhaps more importantly, what they have not received. So basically, with this, according to Garcia, There are over 33,000 pages of the Epstein backlog of information and evidence and files and depositions that have been delivered to Congress. And honestly, at this point, 33,000 pages sounds like a lot, but when it comes to something so deep and so intricate, 33,000 pages, yes, is a lot to go through, but there needs to be a lot more. So, because they went through these pages, the congressmen, with the pages that they got, they only received 3% of new information. So the 33,000 pages they delivered, only 3% of it was new information, and the remaining 97% had already been made public through prior releases from the Justice Department. So there was really nothing new, but the documents included surveillance video from the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York from the night Epstein died in his cell, which we already received. I know they said that there was a minute missing from that tape, and I think they actually released that minute. Did they? I think they released that minute. Let me just double check my sources here. The missing minute. So, yeah, apparently, allegedly, as of late of July 2025, which would have been 2 weeks ago, it has been reported that the FBI, the Bureau of Prisons, and the DOJ Inspector General possesses a complete unedited copy of the Jeffrey Epstein jail video that does not have a missing minute. However, the version has not been released to the public. So, with the missing minute, the video showed a 1 minute gap in the on screen time code, skipping from 11:58 p.m. to midnight on August 9th to 10th, 2019. This prompted new questions and fueled conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein's death. I don't understand, in regards to that missing minute video, I don't understand how, as our government, they would release that video and think we're foolish enough not to examine it. Like, we're not FBI creatures, especially as women. Like, come on. You think we're not going to examine and notice that there's a minute missing from that video? I think it was very stupid on the Department of Justice's part to release that video with that missing minute, but then say they have that missing minute in its entirety, but they're not going to release it. That's so crazy to me. It's like they really think the public is foolish, stupid, no brains in between their heads. But every step of this presidency and his last presidency, we have been calling out each and every stupid lie that he has delivered to us on a silver platter. So I don't understand what was the goal of releasing a video in regards to a death that everyone already is assuming is self-unaliving. Like, it doesn't make any sense, and pretend like we're not going to question it, and then on top of it have files about what happened that night, as well as files dating back to the early 2000s, and then you're going to have our president continue saying, oh, y'all are so stupid for asking for this. Why are we talking about a dead man? Trying to change the topic by throwing anything at the wall that will stick to get the attention off of him and his involvement in the wrongdoing of Jeffrey Epstein and that whole scandal. So the documents included the surveillance video from that night. It included Supreme Court filings from Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate, now serving a 20-year sentence for child sex trafficking, a Justice Department Inspector General's report into Epstein's death, I actually want to look into that. I want to see if I can find that real quick and read it, because that would be interesting. But then again, everything is a lie in this administration, so you take it with a grain of salt. And a memo from Attorney General Pam Bondi to FBI Director Kash Patel. So this is everything that has been 33,000 pages of the files that have been released, that have been made public, but only 3% of it that that the congressman received from the release was new information regarding that Epstein debacle and that whole case and the fraudulent and the deception and the corruption revolving around it and in it. So only 3% of new information came out. So he said basically, Garcia, the congressman, basically said the committee received very little new information, raising concerns that the full truth is still being withheld. And at this point, I think we all know the truth is being withheld. We all know that the truth is Donald Trump was a major player, a major kingpin in this corruption to hide the evidence that has been supplied but not released to the public. Not only a kingpin in regards to the deception of trying to make sure that we don't know the truth, but he's been a kingpin in regards to the trafficking that happened between the early 2000s, that happened between Jeffrey Epstein, and he knew everything about it. So for Ghislaine Maxwell to come out with this interview and this transcript from the DOJ, it just doesn't sit well with me, because not only you're now telling us we need to believe a known liar, someone who was perjured herself in court in 2016, someone who went to jail for child sex trafficking and engaging in these illegal activities. Now the government is trying to tell us that she is a credible witness. She is a credible source to disprove Donald Trump's involvement in any of this disgusting activity. Explain it to me. It's like we're in an upside down world, like in the Twilight Zone. We're supposed to believe a sex trafficker and a liar? This is insane. It's like we're in an upside down world. And honestly, it's just, at this point, it's about understanding the facts and truth about this all, especially when it comes to our government, because obviously right now our government is covering this up. Our government has been covering up. And I'm not placing full blame on Trump here. I'm also placing blame on Biden's administration for not releasing what they had. It doesn't make sense. There has to be a bigger fish to fry than our president. That's why it's being covered up so much by many administrations. So that is basically the update on the Ghislaine Maxwell situation and the Epstein files. We still have yet to receive any sort of documentation that implicates any high-ranking officials or people in the world, not just this nation, but the world. And it's annoying. It's upsetting. It's like, why are you taking so long? And I doled out my theory, my alleged theory, yesterday during my stream. I said they are taking this long because they are combing through those files to make sure Trump's name is not implicated in any way, and anyone that could have been implicated is not in cahoots in paper trails to Trump. That way they can release these doctored files that removes any implications or wrongdoing, that removes any sort of legal proceedings that could go on to Trump, and send him to a court of law to be adjudicated for the crimes that he associated and helped in and contributed to. So that way they can, say, Trump's not a part of this. There's no way. Do you see all these files, the files that have been corrupted and, redacted and completely just destroyed of actual evidence? Trump was never a part of it. Here's the documents. Doctored documents. And it's sad. It's sad that our government is choosing to cover up the PDFs because they're billionaires rather than protecting victims over and over and over and over and over again. So another big news operation that we have going on here is none other than California and Texas, who are in legal battles over redistricting their states. So this was funny. I think Gavin Newsom is what we need currently in the Democratic Party. Not that I'm a Democrat, but I definitely lean towards Democrats rather than Republicans, because obviously Republicans have made their agenda known, and their agenda is Project 2025, and they're doing everything in their power to do it. And it's only been 6 months of a presidency, and they're really succeeding very quickly on their plans. And their plans include removing health care for women, removing LGBTQ plus rights from daily livelihoods, and just in general, just being available to people. They're looking to really destroy what America has built for the minorities communities over the last 50 to 70 years. And it's sad to see. And what Texas is doing currently right now is they're trying to redistrict the state to remove the voice of the Democrats within the state, so that way when it comes to our next election, Donald Trump has Texas in the bag. So when we get into this article here, let's just, get into it so we have some factual backgrounds. Texas lawmakers approved a new congressional map this week at the behest of Donald Trump, seeking to preserve his Republican Party's slim majority in the U.S. House of Representatives in the November 2026 midterms elections. And we all know at this point right now, Donald Trump is struggling with his numbers of being his approval ratings, because he's just not connecting with his base, let alone not connecting with the United States people as a whole. But the telling factor that you're not connecting with your base, Donald Trump, you have to be doing something wrong. But we have to also understand that Donald Trump is not in this for himself. Donald Trump was never in the presidential race in his second term to serve the people. He was never a servicer of the people of the United States. He serves himself. Look at the jet he got from Qatar. Look at the relationship between him and Putin. It is not about the United States. It's about what serves him monetarily to make him even richer. And as much as he gets richer, he gets more of a douche. But with the 2026 midterm elections coming up, can Texas legally redraw its voting district maps? I believe they can legally do it, in my opinion, but the reasoning as to why they're doing it is wrong. And that should be illegal, because they are trying to now redistrict to steal an election that is coming up for the midterms. And not only the midterms, but that affects also the presidential election coming up in 2028, right? We're in 2025, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, in 2028. So I think it's legal to redistrict for communal reasons that benefit the community and helps hear everyone's voice in a community or a state. But the way and reasoning as to why they are redistricting this map to corrupt an election in midterms as well as our presidential election that is coming up. I mean, it's very, very clearly spelled out that Donald Trump wants to run again for a third term. That gives me hives. That gives me effing hives. But at that point, it won't even be a third term. It will be a regime of Donald Trump if this allows to happen, and we cannot allow it to happen because it just gives me hives. But the reason why it's illegal currently is because they're trying to corrupt the system and voting rights from everyone having a say in how that state votes, whether it swings red or blue. They're making sure it is completely red for Donald Trump, and it is a guaranteed electoral college win for Trump when it comes to the 2028 election, if somehow, some way, he runs for a third term. So if we continue on this, Texas Democrats are arguing and voting rights groups are focusing on a claim that the map unconstitutionally packs Black and Latino voters who are driving Texas population growth into some districts while spreading them throughout others to dilute their voting power. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, a landmark 1965 law, allows voters to seek judicial relief if they believe that a state government has curtailed voting rights on the basis of race. Everything is on the basis of race. I mean, how about redlining back in forever ago? Not even forever ago, but it's just these racists. They always seem to. Why can't we make racism illegal? I don't understand it. It's why isn't the KKK considered a terrorist group? It does not make sense. They are domestic terrorists. This is domestic abuse of the people who have a right to be in the United States. So, the Voting Rights Act was a key achievement of the U.S. Civil Rights Movement of the 1960s, led by Martin Luther King Jr. The legislation broadly prohibited poll taxes, literacy tests, and other measures common in states with a history of slavery that prevented Black people from voting. The U.S. Supreme Court has struck down some parts of the Voting Rights Act, but reaffirmed the validity of Section 2 in a 5-4 decision from 2023. So basically what's happening in Texas is that they're trying to steal 5 seats from the Democrats. And California is no, Gavin Newsom, Daddy Newsom, let me be professional, Daddy Newsom, no. He is nah, that's not gonna slide. That's not gonna fly. We ain't gonna allow that. We ain't gonna allow you Texas Republicans, you racist rednecks, to come up in here and try and steal a whole election that is years away. Texas is trying to lay the groundwork for the stealing of an election come the midterms and the 2028 election. California lawmakers on Thursday passed a series of bills aimed at creating newly drawn congressional maps that would flip Republican-held seats to the Democrats. Unlike Texas, where the legislature draws voting maps, California relies on a citizen redistricting commission protected by the state's constitution. But Democrats in the state legislators say they can bypass this bipartisan commission so long as voters approve the new map in a statewide special election. At least California is trying to respect its people in regards to this decision versus Texas that is just looking to abuse and remove the rights of the people in their state. And that's just the dichotomy of it all. Republicans are using nasty, underhanded redistricting tactics to try and suppress voter rights, while California is saying, I see what's happening in Texas, and we're not trying to allow Texas to create a sentiment where we're in the United States gonna allow voter suppression tactics in the United States. So California is like, yeah, no, we're going to actually do this the right way. Since you want to abuse the people of your state, we're going to actually ask the people of our state to see, hey, can we do this? Will this be okay with you? It's just such a dichotomy of how evil the Republicans are versus how, for the people, the Democratic Party is in certain instincts, like this one. So all of that is going down currently in the United States. It is just wild. It is wild. Oh, let's talk about Alligator Alcatraz closing down. That was a big waste of money, wasn't it? That was a gigantor waste of money. So Alligator Alcatraz. Oh my god, the people wearing Alligator Alcatraz like paraphernalia, racist. It's really just as bad as wearing a MAGA hat and allowing yourself to be a part of a cult. It's really bad. But Alligator Alcatraz opened like 2 months ago, and it housed immigrants. And it was in the middle of a swamp, and the sentiment of the disgusting, atrocious people who, evil, vile people who opened that facility was that it's in the middle of the Everglades, surrounded by alligators and snakes and disease and heat, and that no one would try to escape. And if they tried, immigrants, not criminals, because at this point they're not just throwing criminals in these detention facilities, they're throwing just plain immigrants who migrated to this country for a better life into these facilities, which is illegal. And they're just sitting there hoping that if they tried to escape, they would be eaten by alligators, sucked up and wrapped up by snakes, or stung by mosquitoes. And hopefully there's like a disease in those mosquitoes to kill these people. It is evil. It was an evil plan. The name of Alligator Alcatraz just sounds evil. It sounds like Auschwitz, okay? And if you don't know what Auschwitz is, then you don't belong here. It just sounds evil. It sounds like an evil place where people go to do evil activities and things, and placing people in tents in the middle of the summer in Florida, in a place where it's so hot and infested with most likely disease. It's not becoming of what the United States represents. It's becoming of what Nazi Germany represented when they started throwing people into concentration camps, and then they took it further to when they put them into cellars with gas chambers. And it's just sick that our government is taking nothing but literal blueprints from the Nazi regime and applying it to present day in a way that doesn't look bad but is effing horrible. And it's a facade. It's not about protecting. It's not about law and order. It's not about respecting our American soil. It's about racism. It's about whitewashing America again. It's about making America white again. And I have no problem with white people. I don't. I love my white people. But I have a problem with my racists. The racists are the problem here. It's not white people. It's the racists that are the problem in this country. So let's get into this little article here about the closure of Alligator Alcatraz. Florida Governor DeSantis was given 60 days to clear out migrant detention facility. A federal judge in Miami gave the state of Florida 60 days to clear out the immigration detention facility called Alligator Alcatraz, handling environmentalists and the Miccosukee tribe of Indians a win after they clashed with Governor Ron DeSantis over the environmental impacts of the makeshift site was having in the federally protected Everglades. The ruling late it's just such an evil idea. How do you come up with this idea? Like, you have to be such an evil person to think that putting hundreds of people in the middle of the Everglades is something that's going to help deter immigration. No, it's evil. It's literally evil. Like, these people are evil, and it's so scary. This brutal detention center was burning a hole in the fabric of life that supports our most iconic wetland and a whole host of endangered species, from majestic Florida panthers to wizened woodstocks. So their whole argument was that it's affecting the wildlife of the area. And I'm glad that they were handed this win, because that enclosure, Alligator Alcatraz, should have never existed. Should have never been built. Should have never had funds federally directed to building this site, because it's sick. It's sick. Not only that, not only was it built, but now the taxpayers are paying for it, obviously, because it's not coming out of Ron DeSantis' pocket. But what a waste of money for the taxpayers that we're funding it, and y'all didn't think in advance that this is just not a good look, let alone not a good idea. You are promoting your own racism and screaming it out loud, and it's scary that people are sitting here with paraphernalia of Alligator Alcatraz like it's some broad, big scheme of how amazing America is. No, putting people into a detention facility in the middle of the summer in the heat with no air conditioning or proper plumbing or ways to go to the bathroom and deaths occurring, it's not okay. It's sick thoughts. It's evil. The Republicans are literally evil. So in the judge's ruling, Williams said an environmental assessment was required before the site was erected in the Everglades, but the defendants chose not to do so. Despite what DeSantis described as a facility that would have zero impact on the surrounding wetlands, Williams cited expert testimony and said the project will have considerable environmental impacts and should have been reviewed by relevant federal agencies. The project creates irreparable harm in the form of habitat loss and increased mortality to endangered species in the area, including the Florida panther, she wrote. So here's my problem. They directly ignored the communications on how to achieve and put this facility in the middle of the Everglades, right? Ron DeSantis needs to be held accountable for defying environmental agencies, defying the steps it takes to get this system and facility approved. But he's not going to be held accountable. It's just going to be put off into the sunset, and no one's going to talk about it again. Ron DeSantis needs to be prosecuted for what he did and the illegal actions he took to develop and erect this facility that is evil, that looked to target migrants in the United States, not criminals, but in general, migrants and immigrants to the United States. And not to mention the federally assisted ICE program. It's just all around a bad institution when it comes to the detention center of Alligator Alcatraz, there was no sort of plan to legally have this accomplished. There was no plan by Ron DeSantis to legally have this accomplished, and he sidestepped every regulation to input this facility because he thought it would be a good idea to deter migrants from the United States. And here's my problem with Ron DeSantis and all of these MFers is that they think they are above the law. And because they are not going to be prosecuted for his wrongdoing, they are going to continue thinking they are above the law. He needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of ignoring environmental regulations that put environmental life in danger. Like, he needs to be prosecuted. He needs to. I mean, he's insane. He's insane. So, yeah, this happened, and now DeSantis moved to convert an old prison in North Florida into a second immigration detention site, since now he needs to close down Alligator Alcatraz. And he's naming it Deportation Depot. You can't make this shit up. You can't. They're going into Home Depots to arrest immigrants, and they're going to name an entire facility Deportation Depot. The racism in these people's veins are seething, and they're seething out of their freaking racist bodies. It is insanity. Deportation Depot, that is just a cherry on the top of their racism cake, and it's so disturbing. So effing disturbing. But apparently they do have 60 days to close down that facility, take it all down. I want to know who paid for that facility. I want to know what funds were allocated for that facility. I want to know if those funds are going to be reimbursed to the taxpayers. I want to know if those funds, or the leftover funds, because I'm pretty sure they estimated the cost of it, but I want to know, and they probably inflated the cost of what it cost to build Alligator Alcatraz. I want to know the balance of funds, where that's going. Because, they like to steal. The Republicans like to steal money from people. So, the cost of converting the prison will be $6 million, state officials said, to Deportation Depot. They said the cost of building and operating Alligator Alcatraz was an estimated $450 million. All of that money wasted. Oh, I can't believe that. That is just sick. Sick, sick, sick. Speaking of Alligator Alcatraz and deportations and immigrants, let's talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So, he was just released, and now they're threatening to deport him again. This is literal insanity. This administration. You know who lives free all up in Donald Trump's head? Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Gavin Newsom. These people he cannot stand. I'm pretty sure Greta Thunberg lives in his head rent-free too. I mean, it's just, come on. But let's get to this article here. So, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man illegally deported to his native El Salvador, has been released while awaiting trial on human smuggling charges. His attorney said Friday, a blow to the Trump administration, which had promised that he would never go free in the United States again. And he's free. But I wanted to make this clear. Kilmar Abrego Garcia has never been convicted in regards to the allegations the Trump administration is placing against him. The government has had no evidence and has no evidence of Kilmar being a part of a gang, let alone the crimes they are alleging he committed. So it's reported that no court ever made a full adjudication of whether he was indeed a gang member. So that is very important to remember. And honestly, it just looks at this point like our government fucked up really bad by deporting an innocent man, a non-criminal, because they said they were just deporting criminals. They fucked up, and now they're trying to throw anything at the wall to make it stick, to make Kilmar look like he is a criminal, and there's no evidence of him being a criminal. And now they're trying to do anything they can to harass this man to make sure that their hard stance on immigration is put up on a wall, because now Kilmar is free in the United States and he's suspected to be a criminal. Well, the whole administration, they want to make Kilmar Abrego Garcia their poster child. You want to be in the United States? Well, you're not going to be in the United States if you're a Mexican, if you're Spanish, if you're anything other than white, you're not allowed here. And we're going to make Kilmar Abrego our poster child of this. And right now, Kilmar Abrego is just, as serious as the situation is, he's dodging a little bit because they're trying to shoot shots and it's just nothing sticking for this administration. So federal officials obeyed a pair of court orders to release Abrego from jail in Tennessee, where he is accused of smuggling migrants based on a 2022 traffic stop in that state, and allow him to return to Maryland with orders to wear a GPS tracking device. He has pleaded not guilty to the criminal case. However, soon after his release, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, notified Abrego that he could be deported to Uganda as soon as next week, according to two people with direct knowledge of the information. He was also ordered to check in Monday at a local ICE office. A federal judge in Maryland previously ordered immigration officers to give Abrego 72 hours notice of his potential removal to a third country, a time frame that excludes weekends. This is insanity. Leave this man alone. Leave this man alone. You wrongfully deported him once. You made an ass of yourselves and your whole administration and your minions in ICE. And now you're going to threaten this man again to deport him? For what crimes that have not been proven? There's no evidence of this man committing the crimes that this administration is alleging. It just seems like private harassment at this point. Let this man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, live in his life. Like, it's just insane to me that our government can sit here and have no evidence of crimes against someone and still threaten to deport them to a third country that they're not even from. It's like insanity. Uganda of all places. Like, what is going through this administration's mind to think this is okay? It's like someone who gets made a fool of, but then they're like, no, I'm not going to be made a fool of. And they continue to attack the person who made a fool of them, only making them to look like a bigger fool and a bigger stupid person because they're just literally stupid. Like, they're humiliated and they have the shit all over their face to prove it. And they continue to do all of these tactics, and yet again, this man is released in the United States, and guess what? He's free in the United States because you guys didn't have enough evidence in the first place to keep him in El Salvador. Yeah. Just think about it. Just take a loss. Take a loss, bro. Just take a loss, Donald Trump and ICE. Come on, ICE. Just take a loss. But, a lot of topics covered here today. A lot of topics. But at this point, I really think that our country is at a pivot point, at a turning point on how we are going to proceed in this country. And honestly, I think the only way that we allow our country to survive is by splitting it in half. And by splitting it in half, I mean we let the oh my God, sorry, we let the Republic. By splitting it in half, I mean we let the Republicans have their side of the country, and then we let the Democrats, the progressives, have our side of the country. Like we have like the conservative cucks of America being the Republicans, and then we have like the progressive states of America being like the progressives, like us who want freedom and choice and love and honesty and transparency and the ability to make money but also not have homeless people on the streets, things of that nature. So I think we just need to split the country in two. I think we take California, we take Washington, Oregon, we take all of the outer cities, the outer states, New York, oh my God, where's my geography? Chicago, um, Illinois, I mean. Illinois is the state. Here's my geography being stupid. Illinois, Michigan, New York, Maine, New England, all of those states, Connecticut. We take all of those states and we allow the Republican cucks of America to have Texas, and then we take everything else. I think that's the best bet. Just push all the racist Republicans to Texas and Florida. Actually, maybe not Florida. Let's take Florida, because Florida can be nice. It would be nice if there wasn't Republican cucks of America that are racist there. So let's take everything and let's just give the Republican cucks Texas. I think that sounds like a good plan. Maybe even like some of the middle states. Like we don't even care about Kansas, right? Who the fuck cares about Kansas? Give them Kansas too, right? No, I want Tennessee. I was going to say Tennessee, but I want Tennessee. So I think that's the plan. Republican cucks of America, give them 5 states in the United States, and then the progressive states of America have everything else. How does that sound? Anyway, I am going to end this episode with my geographical my geographical knowledge and the hope that we will split the United States into 2, because this shit just ain't working. I said what I said. Anyway, guys, have an amazing night, and I will catch you guys on the next episode of the podcast. I am Ariana Dieva, and adios.